Does the president regret saying what he said about Peter? Can you shed some light if you have had any conversations with him today about what happened last night?
Well, I would say what's most important, and it's Peter sitting here, so this is kind of a funny thing, but the president called Peter, and he confirmed this, so this is only why I'm speaking to this. And if you have private conversations with the president, I will assure you I'm not going to convey that on your behalf.
More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
Within about an hour of that exchange, he called my cell phone. He said, "It's nothing personal, pal." And we went back and forth, and we were talking about just kind of moving forward.
Peter spoke to this. The president called him. He conveyed to him that it was nothing personal, man, and also acknowledged that all of you are going to ask him a range of questions. So I think that speaks for itself. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully I did that justice.
Can't confirm. Person familiar.
Person familiar. Okay.
Peter, have you been called by the White House or the president and asked for come to the Oval Office tomorrow for an interview?
No.
You know. Fun time?
Yep.
So, Doocy, I think the president's right. You are a stupid SOB.
Yeah, nobody has fact-checked him yet and said it's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that will be in the history books.
So the president has nothing on his schedule today aside from the PDB. Can you shed any light on how he's spending his day?
Well, let's see. This morning, I think he had some policy meetings, also a PDB meeting. He, later this afternoon, I think is doing some remarks review. There are some days that we spend some time doing internal meetings and discussions with policy experts, with policy leaders, and that's what's happening today.
Large numbers of single adult men are being released into the United States just hours after being apprehended at the southern border.
Well, I'm not sure the specifics of what you're referring to, Peter. What I can tell you in terms of what our policy is.
And what you're looking at are federally contracted buses dropping off dozens of migrants at this parking garage. And what you'll quickly notice is these are all single adults being released, almost all of them men. No children, no family units.
Moving migrants to other parts of the United States to move to different detention facilities where they wait for next steps in the immigration process, such as a court hearing, and are required to check in with a local ICE office. So that is certainly something that is happening out there in the country and is consistent with our policy.
And you mentioned that they're supposed to check in at a local ICE office, but we know that just between March and August, which is a very small sample size, DHS says more than 47,000 of these migrants that were given notices to report did not show up. So why let them into the U.S. unsupervised in the first place?
Well, again, we have a stringent protocols and processes that we implement here.
Why should Americans care about what's happening in Ukraine?
Because it goes to a very fundamental principle of all nations, which is that our borders should be inviolate, that our sovereignty should be respected.
When should we expect to hear from the President of the United States about the situation as it relates to Russia, Ukraine, in the form of some public remarks to Americans about whatever sacrifices that might take in terms of the U.S. men and women going there and the like, and anything beyond that?
Well, I don't have anything to predict in terms of a public speech. Obviously, he gave a 2-hour press conference just a few days ago.
And it depends on what it does. It's one thing if it's a minor incursion and then we end up having...
President Biden met with Putin in person in June in Geneva, and afterwards he came out and he said that the two of them arrived at a conclusion. He said, "It's clearly not in anybody's interest, your countries or mine, for us to be in a situation where we're in a new Cold War," and I truly believe he thinks that, he understands that. Has the president changed his opinion about what Putin thinks?
How are you suggesting we're in a new Cold War?
I'm just asking, it seems like the president thought in June that things were going to be good, and right now things are not looking good.
I don't actually think that's at all what the president said. He gave an extensive press conference where he conveyed it wouldn't happen overnight, and that there was work that we could do together.
There's a BuzzFeed report now suggesting that the Ukrainian government is upset the U.S. pulled citizens out of Ukraine before many other countries did. And this report says that a source close to the Ukrainian president thinks those Americans are safer in Kyiv than in Los Angeles. What do you make of that?
Well, we're always going to make decisions that are in the security interests of people who are serving as diplomats around the world. And we have assessments that are made by the State Department. Hence
The Secretary of State a few days ago tweeted, I #stand with Ukraine. Has that ever worked at stopping an authoritarian regime from doing anything? A hashtag?
I will have to say that unlike the last administration, we don't think Twitter is the only means of engaging or negotiating or discussing important topics. But it is important for us to convey to the Ukrainian people who do view commentary through a range of forums. I don't know how many are Fox News watchers, maybe some of them, and including social media, that we stand with them, we support them.
We mentioned that North Korea fired new missiles overnight. Obviously, what Vladimir Putin is doing is provocative. Why does it seem that these foreign leaders, in some cases rogue foreign leaders, are testing President Biden?
You know, John, I know there's a lot of temptation to connect these issues because these events are taking place simultaneously. But I don't see these issues as connected in any way other than they took place, taking place around the same time.
For me, one of the criticisms that some fellow Democrats have been voicing in the press recently is that the president has surrounded himself with a corps of loyal aides who've been with him for many years, and increasingly these Democrats are publicly saying that these aides have left the president ill-served. Are you aware of a response from the president to those criticisms?
In terms of what?
Well, there was the Democratic senator quoted today in the newspaper that said that sometimes the boxcars are empty. You know that Senator Manchin has publicly voiced.
I didn't really even understand that quote, just to be honest. But here's what I would say, and I think I know what you're getting at, Steve. So let me try to answer your question. I am new to President Biden's orbit. I've only been working for him since I joined the administration during the transition and then joined in this role here that I'm still in today. What I have found is that I see him on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times a day. He asks me consistently what I think, and by the people who have been surrounding him for some time. Oh, you have time? Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to cut it off so dramatically. Go ahead.